Hello, lovely listeners. Welcome back to the Growth Mindset. Guys, today's episode is very important because we will talk about a very crucial topic that can make or break our lives. Today we will be talking about mental health. And for this episode, we will interview Mohd Rafi, who is India's best rated NLP trainer, behavioral scientist, and an edupreneur. He has trained over 100,000 people across the globe and still counting. He has helped people achieve great level of success and how to train themselves mentally. This topic is very much required in a pandemic event like this, where research are continuously suggesting that there will be a huge spike in the people suffering from depression and facing mental health issues after this event. So Rafi will share with us as to how we can better manage our stress, anxiety, and how to identify if you will be prone to depression. So I'm sure, guys, after listening to this interview, I can actually guarantee you that your consciousness is going to be on a whole new level. So let's get to the interview. First thing first, thank you so much, Rafi, for your time on the Growth Mindset podcast. It is a pleasure to have you on board.
It's a pleasure. It's my pleasure as well, Ishad. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, Mohammad Rafi, since you're an expert when it comes to NLP, right? So I wanted to understand, uh, before we even dive into NLP, would you like to go ahead and just introduce yourself for people who don't know you?
Right, sure. Sure, definitely. So my major area of work is behavioral science. So I do a lot of research on behavioral science in the field of behavioral science. I'm basically a behavioral scientist. And I also run a company. So you can call that I'm an edupreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. In terms of entrepreneurship, I'm specifically focusing on education. That's my niche area. In education, it's personal development is what I focus on. Personal development, life transformation. We do run online and offline workshops for people across the globe. And I'm also a specialist in NLP. That's one of the areas which I've focused on and learned. And another area which I've got specialization is hypnosis, right?
Interesting.
So this is what I do currently, and
Uh-huh.
I've been doing it for the last 15 years right now. And it was quite accidental how I got into it, and
Oh,
possibly I can say that I got into it just to attempt it on myself, some of these tools, and
okay.
then it brought about a difference in my life, and I started teaching it. Then people started giving good feedback, and they started seeing results in their life. And then over a period of time, I grew the company and groomed so many trainers and coaches. So current objective is to grow the company worldwide. So
Wow.
that's Magic of Change is our organization. Our organization is called Magic of Change,
Hmm.
and we want to spread the magic and bring changes to the lives of people throughout the world. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. And what is this term, behavioral scientist? I'm just curious to understand this.
All right. So behavior. So let's say, for example, any tiny behavior. So we can say somebody getting up at 5 o'clock and somebody waking up at 7 o'clock. Right. Somebody waking up at different points of time. Somebody arranges or organizes their table properly. Somebody doesn't organize. So these are all behaviors, right? So there is a science behind this particular behavior. Why we do what we do, right? So it's a pattern. It's also a pattern. It's not something that you have developed it on one single day. It has happened over and over and over and over again, and it's got into your muscles, and it's become like a habit for you. So there is a science behind why we do what we do, right? So what I do is I study this science, and I make alterations in people's behaviors using specific methods and tools. Could be like NLP, could be like sustainable behavior change techniques, could be hypnosis, uh, could be uh, could be like peak performance coaching. So multiple things. So I bring in multiple elements like this and bring about shifts in the lives of people using these tools and alter people's behaviors to bring about excellence in their life. So this is what we do. So that's why I'm a researcher. Mostly I do a lot of research, and I test it on different people and then come up with models and then teach those models to people and apply it in their lives.
Perfect. And what is
Yeah.
NLP?
NLP, if you want to elaborate it, it's called neuro linguistic programming. There's a lot of stuff. People, if they go online, they Google it, they'll get neurology. It's about the brain, linguistic language programming is about like a computer programming. For me, I would say NLP means very simple for layman. It's called New Life Program.
Okay.
Right? People call it neuro linguistic programming. I call it New Life Program. Why? Because see, NLP as a tool emerged way back in the 70s in the US, right? Which was developed by three people basically, a gentleman by the name John Grinder, Richard Bandler, and Frank Pucelik. So it was basically derived by studying people who were extraordinary in different domains. So it could be an Olympic gold medalist, it could be a top psychologist or a therapist. So this model emerged after studying people who were extraordinary in different fields and decoding their behaviors and their patterns and teaching it to common man and helping common man achieve excellence in their life. So that's what NLP in a nutshell is all about, right?
Okay.
So why I call it new life program, when you apply these tools and methodologies in NLP to your life, to your mind, your life is not the same. It's a new life because your neurology shifts, your behavior shifts, your action shifts. So ideally you get into a new life, right? So
Makes
that's why I
sense.
call it like a new life program. Yeah.
Makes sense. And where did you do your certifications for NLP? How do
See,
you become certified?
I've learned with more than 30 international teachers in the domain of NLP and peak performance coaching and leadership coaching. Some of my mentors, I got trained and certified directly with the creator of NLP, Dr. John Grinder, the co-creator in Europe. I did my train the trainer certification, 19 days certification. I've also studied with some of the finest masters like James Akelos, Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, who is number one leadership coach in the world. So I've studied with more than 30 international experts, and I keep learning every year and upgrading myself. So that's something which I keep on doing.
Perfect. And this is
Right,
very curious to me. You said for every action that we do, right? Basically, it's a pattern.
right,
There's a reason behind every action that we take, right?
exactly.
So, what are these patterns and how are these patterns formed?
All right. So patterns are predominantly unconscious, right? Mostly it's unconscious. For example, like you brought your hand like this. I don't know whether this is a video podcast or this is an audio podcast, right? Podcasts are
Sure.
usually audios, right?
Audio, yeah.
So audio, yeah. So basically, let's say even my tonality, there is a pattern in my tonality, right? So these are all formed from our past experiences. Number one. Number two, modeling somebody else. Modeling somebody else means we have seen somebody doing this and we imbibe those. So that's how behaviors are formed. So you see that your dad sitting with his leg, one leg on top of another, and then you pick that up unconsciously, right? And then you start doing it. You see your mother doing something, your mother organizing things and keeping things up, so you do that. So number one is past experiences. Number two is modeling people by observing people and decoding it and getting it. Number three is by training. So somebody would have trained you to brush your teeth, right? So somebody
Yeah.
would have conditioned you to brush your teeth. So by for formal training and learning, you imbibe these behaviors. Number four is like unconsciously. Unconsciously means you yourself do not know how this came into your life, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it also has got a direct correlation to your identity. So behaviors are also formed based on identities. It's a very deep science. So
Oh,
I think we would need at least 10 episodes of podcast to go deeper into the
makes sense.
behavioral sciences. Yeah. So
Makes sense.
identities are unconsciously formed, and identities also shapes behaviors. Values shapes behaviors. Some for some people, like being on time may be a value, right? It's a very
Correct.
very very important value close to their heart. That will shape their behavior. For somebody else, yeah, it's okay even if 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes chalta hai. So they will have a different form of behavior. So values shape behaviors.
Okay. And people
Yeah.
also have good patterns and bad patterns. Is that something of a terminology? Is that there?
I would rather call it resourceful and unresourceful in
Mm-hmm.
my terminology. Resourceful, see, let me say this. Why we can't generalize something as a good or bad? Something that may be good for you may be bad for me,
True.
right? Something that is bad for me may be good for you.
Correct.
For example, let's say for you, sleeping for 7 hours may be good. For me, sleeping for 7 hours may not be good. For me, 6 hours would be ideal, probably.
Yeah.
Or it could be vice versa, right?
Correct.
So we can't, so people in the world generalize certain things as good and bad, right? So what I call it's very simple. Any behavior that an individual is doing in his or her life, is it resourceful or unresourceful for that particular individual?
Hmm.
Simple, right? So this
Interesting.
makes life much simpler. And this doesn't, what do you say, we don't need to compare ourselves with others, right?
Yeah.
See, a child need not be compared with another child. That's the biggest problem which we are having today. Hey, that child is good, you're bad. So if we say there are two siblings in a family, one sibling may be very outgoing. There could be another sibling who would be more of an introvert. There is nothing wrong in being an introvert, and there is nothing extraordinary being an like what you say, extrovert, right?
Yeah.
So both. So for one person, being introverted may be a resourceful behavior, and that child might grow up to become a scientist,
Yeah.
right?
True.
Scientists, ideally, they need to be on their own because they don't want people disturbing them. They want to be like really researching and
Yeah.
the other person may go on to become like a political leader. You never know, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who's like an extrovert, right? So behaviors, basically there is nothing called good and bad. So every individual need to see what is resourceful for him or her and what is unresourceful for him or her.
Hmm.
So this is where my role comes in as a coach.
Okay.
This is what I do in my workshops when people come to learn me. So I help people identify their patterns and help them derive a consensus as to which is resourceful for them and which is unresourceful for them, and help them to enhance the resourceful patterns and eliminate the unresourceful patterns.
Makes sense. That was exactly my next question. Basically, how can one identify what is a resourceful pattern and what is an unresourceful pattern?
Okay, what is a resourceful pattern and unresourceful pattern? For example, let's say, what is the outcome that a person is deriving out of a pattern? This is the simplest thing. So you need to listen to your body and you need to pay attention to the feedback that is coming from the outside. These are the two things, right? One is
Yes.
you pay attention, you listen to your body, you listen to yourself, because you know what's the outcomes that you're getting. So which is nothing but your conscience. You can cheat anybody in the world, but not your conscience, right?
True. True.
So number two is you will get timely feedback. You will get timely feedback from people from the world, right? So for example, if 10 people are telling you, hey Irshad, this particular project you were supposed to submit like yesterday, and this delayed the entire project's outcome. So you know for sure that's possibly a unresourceful
Unresourceful.
outcome pattern, because there are so many people who are giving you that particular feedback,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Correct.
So that could be. So you look for two things. You look for external feedback, number one, from
Mm-hmm.
multiple sources. Don't go by just what one person says.
Makes sense.
The one person's belief could be a false judgment about you, or it could be a bias that person has against you. But if 10 people come up with one particular feedback, and then you cannot neglect that feedback, which means that is telling something to you about your behavior. It could be a resourceful behavior or an unresourceful behavior. And when you look at yourself also, you know what is producing results for you and what's not producing results for you.
Correct.
What is not producing results is unresourceful. What's producing results or producing a resourceful outcome is a resourceful behavior. Very simple. You don't
Makes
need to
sense.
complicate it. We can go into much complicated stuff, right? We can chunk it down and we can go into much more deeper strength. But for the audience right now, I would
Correct.
want to keep it so simple right now.
Yeah, the simple the better, so that people can digest the information, and then if they want to learn more, they can definitely reach out to experts like you. So nonetheless, uh
Exactly. So somebody asked like, what is the difference between like Google and Yahoo? Google
okay.
succeeded because of its simplicity.
True. True.
Yeah, what is the difference between a Nokia phone and a Sony Ericsson? Yeah, I'm talking about 2004. Yeah, if you look at
Yeah.
2004,
Okay.
2005, when mobile phones were launched, it was two competition. There was iPhone was just coming out in the market. There was no Samsung. There was no what you say today's like Oppo or OnePlus. These were all not there. So two
Correct.
major brands were Nokia and Sony Ericsson. So
Yep.
Nokia sold millions and Sony Ericsson did not sell because Nokia was simple to use. So simplicity. Yeah.
Fair enough. Makes sense. And is there any possible way as to how, once let's say somebody
Yeah.
identifies that this is my unresourceful behavior, right? Is there a simple tip or a trick to break that
Mhm.
unresourceful pattern?
Oh yeah, so definitely there is a simple thing which I'm teaching right now already. I'm teaching something called sustainable behavioral change. Okay, in terms of sustainable behavioral change, the first thing which we ask the individual is to identify what is the trigger that is causing that behavior. See, every
Hmm.
behavior has also got a trigger, as I told you, right? So it's very deeper. It's very
True.
deeper, right? So what could be a trigger? So for example, let's say somebody has got a behavior of smoking, for example. There is a thought that goes inside that person's head, or there is some environment this person is in, or there is some action that this person has done, which is giving a message to this person's head, okay, now it's time to smoke.
True.
And so there is a trigger attached to every behavior. This is another in-depth thing. So the simplest methodology that I would suggest to anybody is to start small. So let's say, for example, somebody wants to exercise, right? So they have a bad behavior of not exercise. For example, let's say that they have registered in the gymnasium, they've paid the annual subscription fees of whatever 20,000, 30,000. First 2 days they go and pull all the dumbbells and they're like, yeah, let's do it, and they're all charged up and motivated, because motivation dies very fast, okay, if it's not very intrinsic, right? That's a problem with motivation, because motivation is equal to motive plus action. First, the individual need to have a motive, and they need to know what. So the simplest methodology is start small. They can start with 2 push-ups.
Okay.
If you want to exercise consistently, this may sound very ridiculous. I'm teaching people on a 5-day module right now, online course, and people are finding phenomenal results in the 3rd day itself. I'm teaching a model of sustainable behavior change. Okay, we are doing it as an online program, 5 days online program, and by bringing minor changes like micro changes in your life, your neurology, your brain starts forming new neural pathways. And the whole magic is about conditioning the new neural pathways, because they say neurons that fire together wire together.
Okay.
Neurons that fire together wire together.
Interesting.
So, and when those have already wired, then you need to condition that further. And conditioning is where many people miss it. And conditioning has to be done till it becomes a part of your muscles or nerves or your blood or your system, right? So the basic tip which I would ask people to do is starts very small. Just do 2 push-ups for 1 month, nothing else.
Because that
Forget
will
about
sustain
everything.
the results, right?
Just
Because
do 2 push-ups for every month.
yeah.
For a month.
So that
Exactly. After a month, you can increase it to 3.
makes sense. So it's more like, transferring that exercise or that new habit into muscle power, so that you actually form a habit rather than, trying to jump into the gym and work out for 7 days and then you have no motivation to go on.
Correct. So that is the simplest thing. So sustainable behavior change is a very wonderful model which people are aiming about right now, and that's something which I'm sure is going to be a revolution in India soon.
Makes
This
sense.
particular
Yes.
model is going to reach every household. Taking it into every household is the objective of Magic of Change as well.
Fair enough. And with regards to basically, this is the time of that COVID pandemic, right? Everybody is stressed, everybody is scared, many people are losing their jobs, and most of the people who are, let's say, even extroverts or ambiverts, most of them are sitting at home. For introverts, maybe this may not be a huge outbreak, because they know how to spend time with themselves, so it's pretty easy for them. But for people who spend most of their times going out or working, now they're sitting at home, don't know exactly what to do. So this is a time where I've been reading that people are more prone to stress, anxiety, right? So according to you, what can people do to make sure
Right.
they spend their time in a right way, which can help them be more productive and avoid stress and anxiety?
Okay, so very simple. One of the things which people don't realize is this, right? So every human being, I would say that at least 60-70% of the human beings in their life would have had some or the other disease, like they would have had probably a smallpox, or they would have had like a typhoid, or they would have had like a fracture in their leg, and they can't move out, right? So if you look at people would have definitely, if they go back into their history in life, they would have had some episode. I'm not saying every human being on planet Earth. I'm saying there'll be lots of people who would have already have experience of being quarantined, right?
Makes sense.
So imagine that you have got smallpox. Have you got smallpox? No.
Not smallpox, but
Right.
yeah, dengue.
dengue and all, right? So at least 1 week you were at home, right? So some people get admitted in hospital for like 15 days, 20 days, right? They're in that room only. So people have gone through this situation in the past. It's not something new, right? It's just that so what I would tell people is to just do a simple reframing. It's a sick leave for you.
Okay.
Consider it as a sick leave, right? So we all take sick leaves. This is a little bit extended sick leave, simple. So in
Makes sense.
NLP, we teach something called reframing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
reframing instantly changes the way people think about things. It's how you think about things. It's so my mentor tells me, one of my mentors is a gentleman by the name Rajamurthy sir. He tells Rafi, the problem is never the problem, right? The way in which you look at the problem is the problem,
Makes sense. Yep.
right? Or rather, he says whatever you see in front of you is not the reality, is your perception of the reality,
Yep.
right? Whatever you see in front of you is not the reality, is a perception of the reality. So number one, I would say to people, hey, first reframe inside your head, hey, this is a extended sick leave, or this is a holiday, or this is a sabbatical. So they can say anything. The second thing which I will tell people to keep themselves engaged. See, if people want to grow in their life, right? Today, one of the most important things is you need to upskill. There is no other way that you can grow in your life without upskilling. Whether you're a computer programmer, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a behavioral scientist, whether you're a podcast expert. So you need to consistently upgrade your skills, right? So this is a because it's also very important to keep your brain active.
True.
You got it? Because what happens? So uh, when you're learning something new, again new neural pathways are created in the brain. Phenomena is called neurogenesis.
Okay.
That phenomena is called neurogenesis. And when your brain is consistently active and you're learning something new, it helps you in like preventing problems like dementia. I'm not saying it will not come, but it helps you from resist resistance. You develop a resistance towards this, right? That's one thing. And the other element is basically it also enables you to help yourself engaged. Number two. And when this COVID pandemic is over, it also gives you an opportunity to apply these skills in your work. So learning is the second thing that I would say. First is reframe.
Okay.
Second is learn, right? Learn anything. You can learn a new language. You can learn a new computer programming. You can do online courses. So like in my all online course, there is more than 150 people who have registered, right? More than
Correct.
150 people. And these are people who have got background in Stanford. These are people who are like CEOs of multiple organizations. These are people who are like scientists, doctors, right? So these are the kind of people who are learning with me. So do you think somebody who's done in a Stanford, if they're learning something which means they know that Stanford, by learning in Stanford, it's not yet over.
True.
There is something you can keep on learning every time, right? So
Exactly.
right, so learning is the second thing which I would say. The third element which I would say is to give time for relationships.
Hmm.
Because as you're in your home, so they did a research study in US, and they did a research study in US. They brought in a lot of factors like money, having designation and roles, societal recognition, good health, and they considered what is one factor which is topmost rating for happiness. And more than 89% of the people, it said having good relationships, meaningful relationships is the major reason. So when you have meaningful relationships, automatically you become a happy person. And this is a time for you to give more time for your family and have meaningful relationships. So fortunately or unfortunately, I would say I have not had that leverage. I've had that leverage because I'm working like double more than what I used to work when there was no lockdown. So we as a company have generated more than almost 4 lakhs revenue by teaching online courses. So these three things, they just need to focus. They need to learn something consistently every day.
Mm-hmm.
They have got the opportunity to build relationships, better, strong bonding relationships with their family. Number three, they can reframe themselves. Number four, it's also an opportunity for them. So, like for example, you're doing a podcast. You're doing a podcast with me. You're having an official podcast. So it's also time. it's also a time for people where people can launch their personal brand. Yesterday we did a webinar on personal branding, and people are raving about it. How to have a powerful personal brand? What is the importance of having a powerful personal brand? So we did a webinar on that. So people think that only entrepreneurs need to have personal brands. No. So tomorrow, if you're an employee and you want to get a better job, then your employers, 74% of your employers rely on your personal brand in social media. It
Wow.
could be LinkedIn, it could be Facebook. What are the kinds of posts that you're doing? 74%. This is the statistics which came in US, right?
Wow.
So it's a time. The fourth thing is this is a time for people to build personal brand.
Sure.
So we are also coming up with a course how to earn one lakh rupees in the next 10 days by just sitting at home. We are coming up with a course for anybody.
Interesting.
How can you earn 1 lakh rupees in the next 10 days by just sitting at your home?
Yeah, people are gonna be wondering,
right?
because
with just a phone and a computer connection.
true, because people, I've been seeing a lot of memes out there, a lot of funny images out there, wherein we used to see all those posters on the wall or on the trees and whatnot places saying earn sitting at home 25,000. I don't see that anymore. Where are all those memes gone? Right. Talking about
yeah.
this negative thoughts coming in and this stress and anxiety. Now most of these negative thoughts normally come unconsciously, right? People are not even aware of that they're drilling themselves in negative thought and negative process. So
Correct.
how can one identify that consciously, become conscious of that negative thought and break that chain?
Right. See, the simplest way to identify a negative thought is paying attention to the way you're feeling in your body. See, for example, let me tell people whoever is listening to this podcast, I would ask them to just put their right hand onto their head and just keep looking down, for example, and keep looking down like that for like 10 seconds. And if you're feeling very good about it, keep looking down. If you don't feel good, then wake up.
True. I felt pathetic. Yeah, makes
Right.
sense.
So 99% of the people in the world pathetic, right? And then just keep looking up, head up, just look up on the ceiling or the wall and just bring a smile on your face and try to feel depressive like that. You can't look up and feel depressive,
True.
Yeah, you can't look up and feel depressive because there is a way that our body feels. This is where in NLP we call mind and body are parts of the same system.
Okay.
So mind and body are interrelated. So what happens in your mind, it immediately reflects in your body. Your body will tell you. You will get that feelings in the body. And the most simplest method you asked earlier, the next simplest thing which I can tell you to change any behavior patterns is to change body posture immediately. Because body postures is also a pattern. To feel in a particular way, you have to sit or stand or lie down in a particular way.
Makes
And
sense.
if you change that body posture, you cannot have the same feeling. Because your feelings and your physiology are interrelated. The moment you change your physiology, instantly the way you feel changes.
Makes sense. So what are some good body posture,
Yeah.
for example, to feel confident? Is there any good body posture that one can stand like that? Or
Yeah,
because
so one is like yeah, one is an erect posture. It's called like a banyan pose. It's like a banyan tree. So
okay.
they put their feet like at a shoulder level. They stand up, put their feet like a shoulder level, open chested, head up, and they feel that they're like a banyan tree. They
Okay.
close their eyes and they get that feeling that they're a banyan tree. So we call it as a banyan pose or a power pose, right? The next one is like a king pose. A king pose is where you sit like a king, like this. For example, both your hands behind your like head, and you're like very very relaxed. And I've seen you sitting in my workshops like that,
Yeah.
Irshad. So you sit like a king. So
I
you
didn't
know
know
what is
that
a king
actually.
pose, yeah?
I didn't know that actually, but once when you
Yeah, yeah,
pointed it out is when I learned,
yeah.
okay, this is what it means.
Yeah. So whenever I look at you, I get the feeling, yeah, there is a king sitting in my class. So, so king pose is like really, really powerful. So you can't
Okay.
feel depressed by sitting like a king, right?
Makes
Because
sense.
kings are not depressed. You can't feel depressed. You will. So when you sit like a king, you feel the power. You
True.
feel the drive within you. You feel that energy within you,
True.
right? And that's what changes the way you're feeling negative. You can't feel negative by sitting like a king.
Makes sense.
That's why you are so positive. So right. So you've done so many podcasts. So
Yep.
your body postures, I've not seen any unresourceful postures here. Maybe like one or two small ones, but
Hmm.
majority of 99% of your physiology is resourceful postures.
So this is what happens, when you sit with an expert, they decrypt each and every single thing, what you're doing, what you're not doing.
No,
But
it's not. It's just that my job. See, when
true,
you come for my program and when you're paying the fees, then I think if I don't do it, I'm not doing justice to you, right?
exactly, makes sense.
so so people come to me for help, right? And
Correct,
I need to do justice. For that, I need to pay close attention to their patterns. Yeah,
makes sense.
that's what we do in our programs.
Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah.
And what about, would you like to point out the differences between these three terms: anxiety, stress, and depression? Like, these are three different terms, right? But what is the difference between these so that people sitting at home can understand?
So stress is nothing, but stress by itself is not bad. First thing which I want to break people's myth.
Mm-hmm.
Stress as a word is not bad.
Okay.
Stress is nothing but the body's reaction to
Hmm.
any change that happens, any change that requires basically an adjustment or a response from your side. That's all. That's stress.
Okay.
Is a body's reaction to any change. It could be like a change in your job. It could be like, hey, it's a change. Now we are sitting at home. So it's a
Correct.
change. So your body that requires an adjustment or a response from your body. That's called stress. You're
Hmm.
participating for a competition like Olympics, right? So there are three types of stress, basically, according to me.
Mm-hmm.
We usually teach that. It's called under stress, over stress, and eustress.
Okay.
Eustress, EU stress.
All
Eustress
right.
means optimal stress. Let's say a sports person, if he wants to win in Olympics, can he just simply sleep for 10 hours and become an Olympic athlete? No.
No.
So he will have to put his daily routine. He will have to stretch a little bit. So, but that also is a stress, but that's called optimal stress.
Hmm.
That produces results, that produces great outcomes, right? So number two is like overstress. Overstress is like, if you look at many healthcare professionals today, as it is like a COVID time, right? Pandemic time. They're
Correct.
working like 24 hours continuously, maybe like they're not able to sleep. They're sitting under the staircases. They're lying in like hospital verandas, and they're like sleeping. That's called overstress. Overstress is what burns out people,
Hmm.
right? So overstress is what burns out people. Third one is called understress. What is understress? Understress is also the situation straight opposite of people sitting at home. When you're
Okay.
not productive, also you're stressful. So imagine that there must be a time when, yeah, there are people who would have been hired in top corporates, right? I don't want to name any company, but let's take some top IT companies, right? It could be any of the companies. It could be a Wipro, TCS, Infosys. It could be any company, right? So I'm talking about like when I got out of my college and like almost 15 years ago, I'm talking about, right? So some of my friends got placed in these companies, and we call these people and say, "Hey, Macha, how is things going?" And they say, "Macha, it's amazing because you know why? There is no work, free internet. They're giving coffee, tea, biscuits, Mirinda, yeah, free lunch. Everything is amazing, Macha. This is like honeymoon period." They say, and then after 1 month, you call them. They say, "Macha, it's getting irritated, Macha. No projects, still in the bench." But Macha, are you still getting that biscuits? That is all still available, Macha. But I'm feeling stressed. This is called under stress. So when
Hmm.
you don't have work also, it causes stress. So
Makes
that's
sense.
what's happening to many people sitting at work because they don't have anything to do.
Correct. Very
Right.
true.
So that is stress basically. Like now what is depression? So if you look at depression as such, right? So depression basically is a mental condition, right? It's a mental condition, or it's a mental health disorder, or we can call it a mood disorder, you can call, right? Basically, what does depression do? Depression causes a persistent feeling. This is the whole thing. It causes a persistent feeling of sadness and also loss of interest
Hmm.
in anything. It affects how you think, how you feel, and also how you behave.
Makes sense.
Right? So that's it's a mood disorder. We can also call it's a mental health disorder.
Okay.
So this is the second thing. So that is like depression, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is anxiety? So anxiety by itself. So anxiety disorders are there, and hardcore anxieties are there, right? So mild anxiety is still okay, like manageable. That's human to have like mild anxiety. When like tiger is approaching you, you can't go and like, hey tiger, come on, hey, I'm a behavioral scientist. So you'll have a mild anxiety when a
True.
tiger is coming, right? That's nothing. That's nothing but your reflex action, your flight and fight response, right? That's a
Correct.
protective mechanism. So you need to be a little anxious when a tiger is approaching you. Probably you'll have to run or you'll have to hide, right?
Makes sense.
Until unless you know how to tame the tiger, right? Yeah. So, but let's say you're thinking, yeah, you're sitting at home and you're worrying, hey, is this pandemic gonna be forever? Is the lockdown gonna how will my job be like? So they're like constantly, hey, when the child is walking, hey, don't do that, you'll fall down.
Yeah.
Hey, come on. uh, I think so people are constantly, so it's an intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. Intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear. This is
Yeah.
what is anxiety. So when over stress and anxiety combines together, it can become a reason for depression.
Hmm. Okay.
It's the person is consistently feeling low, and they don't have any. So you call them out, hey, chalo, da, let's go for a movie. They'll say, no, I'm not. Hey, let's
Correct.
let's do this. Let's together sit and create this project. No, I don't. Hey, you
Yeah.
are awesome, man. No, I'm not awesome. So they're not feeling good, and they also don't have interest. So you have to
Makes
look
sense.
for these two things.
Hmm.
So that will tell you the whether some of the types of depressions cannot be even identified. It's kind of hidden.
Okay.
So some depressions, they say like it takes an year or two to come out in the open. So
Wow.
there may be mild symptoms which a person is showing. These are
Uh,
things which you may not be able to see.
correct.
In India, it's like rising.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's rising. It's rising every year. So it's very recent research study says I think around 17 or 18% of the Indian population is called mild to
Wow.
high depression. Yeah, or some of the
Wow.
other psychological disorders. So
So
which
what?
means like 2 in every 10 people you are seeing, or 1 in every 5 persons that you're seeing has
Mhm.
got some mental challenge.
Wow. So what should
Yeah,
somebody do if
20
they
percentage. Yeah.
what should somebody do if they find out that my friend or my colleague or my family member is depressed? Should they reach out to experts? Is that how they can get them out of depression?
Absolutely, absolutely. So see, there are basically like I would say that research says, very recent research study says there are 9 main reasons why depression occurs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 9 main reasons. I don't want to go into all the depth of the
Sure.
reasons. So some of the reasons I would say, one is disconnection from other people
Hmm.
when the person is alone. So I won't be surprised if people get into depression after this pandemic. If the depression
Hmm.
number rises, I won't be surprised, because disconnected from other people is one of the causes for depression.
Makes sense. All right.
Right,
Cool.
right. So uh, so so yes, first approach a specialist. Yeah, it could be a therapist, it could be a coach, it could be a psychologist, it could be a psychiatrist. Like, first see whether you can help the person without medications, right?
Mm-hmm.
See whether you can help the person without medications using therapy,
All right.
right? Using therapeutic approaches.
Yeah.
And then if you can't help the person, still if it's extreme or acute, then consult a psychiatrist and you may need to take medications. But that's only in like very rare scenarios.
All right. Makes sense. And
Yeah.
one question I have, so many people sitting at home, I know you read books. You're a fanatic reader. I know because I
Right.
personally interacted that. So what are some
Right.
good books? If you had to recommend two books to the listeners, what two books should they read, which could help them
Oh
during
my.
this pandemic?
Oh my God. Oh my God. My my library has got almost like 2,000 books.
Wow.
You're asking me which two books, or two books on which area. So people
Hmm.
have got, like, people want to achieve so many things in their life, right? So let
Correct.
me okay. Mm, what field I'm thinking what field to suggest. That's the only thought.
Hmm. Which
Uh,
is your favorite book?
oh, my favorite book is called Paranormality.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, paranormality is what is the science behind all the superstitions and myths.
Hmm. Interesting.
It,
Who's the author?
it's like it's written by a gentleman by the name Dr. Richard Weissman, who
Okay.
is a behavioral scientist in UK. He's
Hmm.
also a psychologist. He's also a magician.
Okay. Interesting. I
So
should get that
it's
book.
his it's his deep research study. It's about how religions influence people, how politicians influence people, what is the science behind ghosts, why people believe that there is ghosts. He has
Hmm.
lived in haunted houses for like 1 year, 2 years, and done this research.
Wow.
So that's like by far my most favorite book. The other one,
Okay.
if I want to recommend to people, because being a behavioral scientist, I'm somebody who focuses on research based stuff. I like research based outcome because that's got evidence and proof.
Mhm.
Telltale Brain by Professor V.S. Ramachandran, or
Mhm.
there is another one called Phantoms in the Brain
Okay.
by Professor V.S. Ramachandran. That's another favorite book of mine, which I would recommend to people.
Fair enough. Makes sense. And one last question before I let you go, Rafi. This is
Yeah,
something that I ask almost all the guests on my podcast, right?
right,
So
right,
now let's imagine, you've accomplished great feats. You already trained thousands of people, lakhs of people. You've brought a shift in their lives, but now you are
right, right,
65, 70 years old. You've done all you wanted to do. You've had an impact. You've made a lot of money. Everything, whatever your dreams were, you achieved it, right? And now
right,
you could give two advices to your kids. Two advice,
right, right,
right?
right,
What those two
right.
advices are gonna be?
Simple. One is live every moment fully. Number two, listen to your heart.
Hmm. All right, fair enough. Makes sense. So perfect. Thank you so much, Rafi, for your time. It was a pleasure having you on the growth mindset, and
It's my honor, pleasure.
I'm sure a lot of people will learn a lot from you from this conversation that we have had, and I hope this
I
helps
believe so.
people.
I believe so.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Rafi, again, and we'll connect soon.
Definitely, definitely. Pleasure is
Yeah,
mine, Ashad. Pleasure is
yeah.
mine. Yeah. And I
Eh,
wish you all the success for your podcast.
Thank you so
Wish you
much.
become one of the best podcasters in the world, right?
Thank you so much. Yes.
And I'm sure that you will reach there in the next 2 to 3 years by the way that you're going right now.
Guys, this brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you guys liked the interview and there were a lot of takeaways to understand what is stress, what is good stress, what is bad stress, what is anxiety, what is depression. I hope you guys implement the tips that Rafi gave so that we could improve our lives and the lives of people around us, right? Because knowledge without action would yield no result. So, guys, till then, take care, stay at home, stay safe.